All right, Nick. I don't think we're live yet. So for the thumbnail, do we want Lego figures of the stormtroopers or the rebel scum?
Stormtroopers.
Okay. All right. They've even got some people building some pretty cool stuff. I think it's licensed, but I don't know.
No, it's probably all licensed. They got Superstar Destroyers and Death Stars and
Death Stars. They get big.
Yeah.
Did you see the view of that guy that drunk?
Yeah, idiot.
Wait. Tell us that story, Stabby. I'm curious now.
So, dude built big giant Death Star, and he was trying to move it to a different room, and he tripped for his dog, and the whole Star Wars Death Star just crashed into the ground, and then as it rolled on the stairs, it lost more and more pieces till it was just a pile of bricks.
It didn't even involve Luke.
Oh my god!
Did he get a new dog? Is that what happened after this?
I don't know. No, there's follow-up.
No, but that dog was crapping Legos for a few weeks, probably.
Had that come. Wherever you build it, that's where it stays forever. For life.
For life. Well, okay, it finally kicked in. So we're going to say welcome back to yet another episode of the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are yet another group of nerdy nerds doing nerdly things. And now that Nick has decided what we're using as our thumbnail for this, hey, are you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans? It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just three nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. As you can see, the podcast started while we were waiting, and we were just chilling, being nerdy, and now we're going to record our nerdiness. So yay you. All right. So we've got some guests here today. So we're going to start at the top. We have the dueling Michaels. We're going to start with Gallagher. So Michael Gallagher, can you introduce yourself to our viewing and listening audience?
Most certainly. My name's Michael Gallagher. I'm the author of the novel Body and Blood. I'm also a contributor at Upstream Reviews. I've also had some short fiction appear in Crossover magazine, as well as a number of anthologies. Most recently in Bayonet Books' Zombie Patient Zero, where my short story, 5-Star Cannibal Holocaust, is published.
And the lovely commercial you heard the other day was narrated by his Michael Gallagher.
Oh, did you play it? Awesome.
Yeah, it was a sponsor of an episode or two ago.
Nice.
So this
All
is
right.
episode 287, and that was the sponsor for the Indiana Jones review, which is 279, I believe.
Oh, sweet. All right.
So yeah, we figured it was a good pairing. You know, zombies, Nazis, kind of same.
Yeah.
Dead franchises that won't die.
Yeah.
Well, Nick,
Perfect
spoiler
pairing.
alert, if you listen to that one and you haven't yet, you should go back and listen. But Nick actually liked it. He gave it the Garber stamp of approval. He thought the movie was okay.
Nick says, check it out.
All right.
He said the people were whinging and crying over nothing. It was a good movie.
Okay.
So, and then not that people don't have reason to be skeptical about modern Hollywood, but all right. So we appreciate you making the commercial. And if you like zombies, you're good to go. You check that out too. Mr. Michael LaVoice, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
Hey, yeah, I'm Michael LaVoice. I've been writing professionally as a ghostwriter for a few years. Finally started writing my own stuff under my real name, and yes, it is my real name. Back when I was in garage bands in high school, nobody believed that was my actual real last name, and when I was a voice actor, it was even worse. So no, it's my real name, I swear. I am about to release a series under my own name coming up this December in Athon Books called Galaxy's Most Wanted. So I'm eager to jump in with both feet under my actual name this time instead of writing for other people.
That sounds right up my alley right there.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
French
that sounds fun.
Is this like a French thing?
Say what now?
Is this like a French thing? Le voice, le sai.
Yeah, it is French. There's two branches of the family. There's the one where the guy came over from Canada. He had a wife and kids, and he came to Canada from Paris. He had a wife and kids in Paris. And he picked himself up a wife and kids while he was here trapping bees and stuff. I'm from that side. we don't get invited to the reunions. So,
I mean, you know, he's like the sailors that have a wife in every port. It happens.
it works for me. I just, you know, I'm not a first.
Damn, we're not even 5 minutes in. Episode's getting spicy.
All right, we're going to have him back when his book launches to talk about that. And while we have him there, oh, you know what, Nick, we're going to do it this time. We're going to ask you, sir, the religion question. Are you ready for this, Michael LaVoice?
Okay.
Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Firefly.
Oh, go on. Explain.
Well, Firefly to me was what Star Trek promised to be, but really wasn't. It was the Western in space, and the religion that prevailed in that, in addition to all the faith that they kind of put out there during the show, was self-reliance and making your own way and doing what's right in your own eyes. And to me, that's a man. So Firefly.
Shining.
Hands down.
And because we are polytheistic, sir, you got one more for the road. Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time, or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
Thank you.
Lord of the Rings.
Classic, or you just don't like grimdark?
Anybody who picks Wheel of Time, that's a screening question, you immediately get flushed off the show.
Yeah.
So I
I
actually
never read it, so I don't know.
If you can't get your point across in 3 books, I don't want to hear it.
Ron
met
Hubbard would
Robert
like a
Jordan.
word. Oh, wait, he's dead. Never mind.
I met Robert Jordan. He was a nice guy. And I tried to read his books, but his writing style was just a product of the time, I think. And it's just something about the prose. I like the more Clancy-esque workman prose.
Did you read any of his Conan novels?
I didn't realize he had written Conan until
Yeah, he
recently.
wrote a few
somehow.
Conan
What?
novels. They weren't bad.
What?
I was huge into
Jared-
Conan back in the 80s.
I never realized he wrote any Conan. JR, I'm curious, did you ever read the stuff that Sanderson ghost wrote near the end after he had died?
No, but I didn't make it that far. And I had
I wonder if the prose would have changed enough that, like, if you could tell if you'd have liked those versus the stuff that kind of
I tried to read some of Sanderson's stuff, and I just didn't like his work either. I mean, clearly the dude's making bank, so people like his work. It just wasn't for me. But I like Tad Williams, and I like who's the one that wrote the Sword of Shannara? Terry. It's one of the Terrys. Is it Pratchett?
Brooks.
Very good.
Was it Goodkin wrote Sword of Truth? I like that. So I'm like, I'm not.
I thought it was Goodkin. Hang on.
But I
Brooks
like
wrote Sword of Shannara. Pratchett wrote the Discworld novels.
I just got the paired shirts. Hold on.
No, it was Brooks.
Hold on.
Gallagher.
Right, it was Brooks.
Gallagher, if you want to know,
and
Conan
her.
the Invincible and Conan the Defender, Conan the Unconquered. He wrote a whole slew of Conan
Now I got
novels.
to check him
back in
out.
the day.
But yeah, so I don't
Thank
really
you. I'll
like,
check him out.
I don't really like Sanderson's style, so that just didn't do it for me. The Wheel of Time, Game of Thrones. I'm just on a moral level. I just can't start a series that I know I'm never going to get an ending for. I won't read Rothfuss 2 at this point. Like if I had started with him in the beginning, I'd be pulling what little hair I have left out because I want stuff to end. Like I get there's monetary decisions involved, but at a certain point in time, wrap it up in a novel, even if it's not, the
Martin gave up finishing the ending in the books and finished it when he was writing the series. That's the ending.
Yeah.
Like it or not, that's the one he was going towards anyway. We just saw it on film as opposed to the page.
Yeah, I think he wrote himself into a corner and he didn't know what to do, which is why the new stuff he's writing is in the pre-age. But I also don't like the grimdark in general. Like, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, me neither.
I want something a little more hopeful. I don't mind grim when situation is dire, but I like to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And with George R. R. Martin, the light is the train that's about to run over you, your friends, and all your friends of your friends.
And kill a Stark.
And anybody else.
By the way, you're a little dog too,
I like redemption arcs. That's why I like writing about space criminals.
Thank you. And actually, what they did to Jamie Lannister was what turned me off the show. It got me to stop watching it. When he goes on this arc where you feel like he's making progress and he's improving as a person, and then he gets back to King's Landing and immediately goes back to fucking his sister. And it's like, all right, so nothing happened and you haven't changed and this was all a bunch of horse shit. Okay, I'm going to turn the TV off now. I never watched that show again after that.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm suddenly so very glad I never watched it to start with.
I
So
don't.
will say-
Don't. You are.
I
Yeah,
will
just
say,
like 62 weeks of watching everything.
at one point in time, I had J.R. Handley, not the podcast, had his own Twitter. I had my own Twitter, and I realized I was getting political, and I'm intentionally apolitical because, one, if you have a certain belief, you do better because you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And I know some of my readers are legitimately card-carrying members of the American Communist Party. I love them for all I think they're deluded.
And their money.
And their money goes well too. And so because of that, I finally had to shut my Twitter down because it was just too tempting to dive into the cesspool and swim with the sharks, so to speak.
That's definitely not my Twitter.
Yeah. But before I left, I
Those
did
people
get
play
blocked
hard
by
to get.
George
I
R. R.
pay hard to
Martin.
want.
So he was going on one of his mini Trump rants back in the 2016-ish era. And I'm like, dude, you write about incest, grape, and like all kinds of unsavory fornication. Who are you to judge anyone's morality? And he blocked me.
Nobody banged a dragon in that series. I was disappointed.
Do we know? Like it could have happened off scene. Like, I watched
He's
Three
still
Kings
got-
and mess with the goats, but I'm just saying.
He's still got 2 books.
You could
You
happen.
don't know.
If you get really want to be entertained with some of the lore of Game of Thrones, there's a podcast called The Angry Staff Officer. It's some retired army guys, and when they get to staff positions, they just hate their life because of all the paperwork. So they're perpetually angry majors that have float around. And while they were still active duty, while that was happening, hence the name Angry Staff Officers, they broke down everything wrong with George R. R. Martin's books and movies, because if you look at what he did, like, and you take into account any minimal understanding of logistics, none of those armies could work.
No.
Didn't you recently say on one of your podcasts that majors are like the butter bars of the officer of the?
Yeah, they're the field grade butter bars.
field grade
That
butter
was
bar.
Nick.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So
All the gold ranks are crazy, and not in a good way. I know.
So
I one of them.
I was got out as a sergeant, and there's a song that Taylor J. Satfield wrote. He was famous for it, the EAS song. It's too crude for me to even quote most of the lyrics, but it was sort of the song of Nick and I's deployment. And one of his lines was, "I'd rather run over an IED than ever have the BC speak to me." That was kind of my approach to officers. I'm like, can I just get blown up again? Because it never ends well when at a squad level you're talking to anyone above the company. It's just always a bad sign.
Yeah, that is a tough mind to dodge when you're a company commander like I was. BC wanted to talk to me all the damn time.
Yeah, see, I just volunteered for extra missions and spent all my time in the field because, the terrorists were safer than the majors.
I'm pretty sure I hold the record as a captain as most time spent in the motor pool, so I didn't have to talk to anybody higher than me.
That makes sense.
I was a generator mechanic in a Hawk missile unit for the first Gulf War, and after they issued us rounds, never saw the commander again. Captain just vanished, ghosted. I don't think he ever left the CP.
Man,
How did he get away with that? I mean, was he a warrant officer? Because that would explain a lot.
No. He was an 03 in the Army. He was a
okay.
captain.
I hear if you get coffee beans and you make a shape of a pentagram and you pray to it, that sometimes the warrant officers will appear. Legend has it.
you got to put a cigar out there too.
Oh, I forgot. See, that's why it never worked. I didn't know about the cigar.
Yeah,
You just show up at the maintenance platoon. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So yeah, if you want to hear a breakdown of the Game of Thrones, Angry Staff Officers did it. They also did a breakdown of Rogue One, and everything that was wrong with the execution of that assault. And I did hear one. I think they broke down the Holdo maneuver, where Star Wars, was that it? Well, first off, it broke all of the canon that existed before it, because if that was possible, then the run on the Death Star makes no sense.
Yeah,
so now we're actually talking Star Wars.
You had to backtrack it on the next movie and like, oh, that was a 1 in a million chance that was ever going to work again. It's
So
like,
Well, that's just good
Nothing.
strategery.
They're more likely to double down on it and do it again than they are to backtrack anything.
Well, they
that was
backtracked in the
make
midichlorians.
a hyperspace weapon missile, a missile that can go and just take out a whole armada, Like,
But-
we just OP'd the rebels. There's no way they can lose. Oh, let's backtrack that. Let's walk that back a bit.
But they did walk back the midichlorians, so they can sometimes see the light. But that was before George Lucas sold it to Disney. So the House of the Mouse is a different beast. So what was, as we get this started, because we want to get nerdy about Star Wars, what was everyone's first memory of the iconic property? And we're going to start with the Michaels. So we'll start with you, Gallagher.
Weirdly enough, the first Star Wars movie that I ever saw was actually Jedi. I somehow managed to avoid a lot of my childhood of seeing that for whatever reason. It just didn't seem to happen. I saw Back to the Future. I saw like all the great 80s movies growing up, but I just happened to come across it in a video rental store. And I just on kind of a fluke, I rented Jedi, and for all of the guff that Jedi gets for like the Ewoks and stuff, it was definitely the most polished in terms of effects, and the ending was still great. It's like the lightsaber duel between Luke and Vader was actually, well, you actually got a lightsaber duel. Oh, okay. Yes, I did. But it was even though I was kind of getting into the Star Wars lore backwards, I loved that movie. And so then I went back and I watched the other ones in the original trilogy, and I was just a massive Star Wars fan until the prequels came out. And that kind of dulled the shine a little bit. I remember being in the theater for Phantom Menace, and just for weeks and weeks and weeks, everybody was talking about going to Phantom Menace on opening day. It was that rare bit of movie magic that you don't see anymore now, thanks to streaming and all this other stuff. That was incredible. If I had one Star Wars memory, maybe not my first, but the biggest, it was being able to go to Phantom Menace on opening day with a bunch of my friends. And because that thing sold out for weeks and we managed to get in. That electricity around a Star Wars movie, I don't think you'll ever feel that again.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're probably right, unless you're introducing the youngins to the movies.
Right.
I could
when
see
my
that.
son asks me how many Star Wars movies are there, I'm going to tell him 3.
It was a great franchise. I wish they made more.
Oh, man.
That's what I tell mine.
Right.
Although the Clone Wars, too, if we're joking, like the cartoons, the Clone Wars and Rebel Alliance, those weren't bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they were targeted for their audience, so it wasn't like it was deep plots. But I mean, it was
45-year-old Star Wars fans. Yeah, it was targeted towards their audience.
No, it wasn't trying to be like some deep, in-depth thing. It was also understanding cartoons are for kids. Not that adults can't watch them, but they weren't trying to be, the next big Magnus opus. They were just fun.
It was filler, and it brought more to the lore. And some of those characters that were animated are now coming up in the live action shows, which is really cool.
Okay, what about you, LaVoice?
Well, speaking of showing age, I actually saw the first one in theaters in '77. I was about 8, and dude, I was hooked. I had already been exposed to sci-fi. My dad used to play old radio shows for me, the pulp era heroes, and I was into the Shadow and all that stuff, and the Phantom and Doc Savage. So I was already on my way to being a sci-fi nut. And then this thing comes on. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And it just blew me away. And then so, I was there in the theater for every single installment that came after that. And I was into, until they came out with Phantom Menace. When Phantom Menace came out, I was like, why are we doing a backstory? We already know the kid grows up to be Vader. There's no dramatic tension here at all. It's not like you're going to kill the kid. It's not like you're worried that he's not going to survive to fulfill his destiny, however dark it may be. So I didn't really dig the prequels that much. And that's pretty common for people my age from what I hear, because there's a whole new generation of kids that the prequels, that's their Star Wars and they love them. And, more power to them. I think every kid should have that experience. It kind of makes me feel bad for the latest batch of kids. But anyway, with the sequels.
So one of the things that made Star Wars so good is it had a lived-in feel to it. It was so vast that it felt like there were so many stories to tell.
Yeah, and beyond that, Lucas intentionally dove in the middle of things.
Yeah, in media res.
You know, and it's like,
Specialty.
what's the Clone Wars? Who's Obi-Wan Kenobi? Who's Ben Kenobi? Who are these people? Doesn't matter. There's blasters and sword fights, and it's great. And
Space
you
wizards.
catch up as you go. So yeah, I love that aspect of it. He got far too backstory concerned later on.
So I will say that part of the iconic "Please be kind and speak your mind" on the reviewing platforms that we do at the end of every episode came from my memories of going to Blockbuster, because there was always that sign, "Please be kind and rewind," when you turn to the movies. Although that used to piss my stepdad off. He's like, "Don't they know that that's bad for the movies? Leave them unwound and then just rewind them right before you watch." I heard that lecture every time we went, without fail, every Friday when we went into
I come
Blockbuster.
to find out that it didn't really freaking matter.
I'd never heard that, Jared. Why were they bad for the movies?
Because it put tension on the tape. On the reel. It put tension on it. So there was no reason, because every time you went one way or the other, you're putting more tension on it when you do it. But when you're rewinding it, you're doing it so quickly. I don't know.
Okay.
I think modern people like realize it probably didn't matter, but at the time, people had strong opinions.
Oh,
That's such a
Blockbuster, though, they had like a 15 to 20 of those industrial grade rewinders.
Yeah,
behind the counter.
And I had one shaped like a race car.
Blender.
We put it in and set right next to the VCR.
We had one that looked like a Ferrari, and the back
That's great.
and you stuck the tape in, and then just and like within 20 seconds it was rewound.
Yeah, my dad bought one that had it was an old Model T, and you put it in the bed of the truck, and then it closed, and that was the rewinder that we had. It's probably a limited edition. But he was still mad that Betamax never took off. So I mean,
right,
that's such a
they're so mad that the HD DVD lost out to Blu-ray. You know, it's the same story.
Yeah.
But I will say, final note on my experience with Star Wars from then to now. I really enjoyed Clone Wars, and I really liked Rebels, even though it was aimed at a younger audience. And I'm really digging the Bad Batch, and Andor wasn't too bad. I kind of liked Andor.
I like Andor.
Yeah, little cloak and dagger action.
I mean, that was the grittier side of the rebellion I'd always wanted to see. You know, I love the underbelly, the dark underbelly of stuff is where I
the Empire.
Yeah,
you know, I dug that.
And season 1 of The Mandalorian.
My problem with the planet that they end up, some of it was just too clean. Anybody that's ever lived or spent some time in a desert knows nothing is ever clean. Nothing stays clean. There's sand everywhere. When the wind blows, the sand will scrape the paint. And that's the other thing that a lot of times sci-fi gets wrong in general is everything's so clean. And I'm like, anybody that's just been camping once knows, no, nothing's clean. And could you imagine living in that body armor for hours at a time? I mean, if we've got any cosplayers here, like what does that armor start smelling like after a while? I roomed in college with a hockey player, and I'm telling you that funk is real.
I've worn Stormtrooper armor. It was probably the longest I've ever worn the armor. I did 4 12-hour days straight at Celebration 2 in Indianapolis. I was wearing a biker scout, and holy God, it smelled like my combat armor.
I believe it.
It stank. It was filled, like I had salt rings going on in the joints.
But that's real, and they didn't do any of that in the Mandalorian when Gina Carano left. Like it's almost like they gave up.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that, but I think that's one thing that younger audiences forget. Like we just take for granted, you know, if you're of a certain age, like Lord of the Rings was always there. So fantasy was always what fantasy is now because Tolkien bred a genre, right? D&D was always there for me, like because it came out when I was a kid. So gaming was just always there. But Star Wars wasn't until sci-fi wasn't what we understand as sci-fi until Lucas had his vision and he did his thing. And he sort of brought it to the masses, I think.
Yeah, like we had Lost in Space and Plan 9 from Outer Space and stuff.
Danger Will Robinson. I watched all the black and whites at Nick at Night. I mean, I get it, but
Lost in Space, original Star Trek.
Everything was, and Star Trek, everything is still clean. Like they have a maid service 24/7 going on the bridges of those starships.
That's what I liked about DS9. DS9 was a little funky. DS9 was a little dirty. And I dug that because I was like, yeah, you got this habitat out in space and you're going to flush the garbage out into 0G and there's going to be filth still left behind.
And nothing worked, which was awesome because that's like a station that's been out there at the rim of space for decades. Nothing's going to work, man.
Stargate Universe did that too. In early Stargate Atlantis, when they got to the Atlantis, like I like that where it's like where they show the realism because stuff breaks down, and if resupply isn't there, all right.
Going back to that iconic Star Wars moment, though, how many of us identify with Han Solo when the lights shut off in the cockpit and he reaches back and bam, and everything comes back on?
Yes.
I love that. That was so
my
great.
Ford Ranger. My Ford Ranger's like that. I had to. It was a manual, and to start it on a hot day, like the wires underneath that connected everything would get a little loose, so I had to kick the wires under the dashboard to start it up. That thing was my Millennium Falcon.
Sounds like my '74 Duster.
My first car was a '79 Ford Ranchero, and it was something else too. It was old when I got it. Some sailor had sold it to me because he was getting ready to deploy, and it died because he said the engine blew. So he sold it to me for $50 in 1997. And turns out he just ran out of gas. But hey, he's a nuke, so I'm sure he didn't ruin anything.
With my Camaro, it was an '88 Camaro. I had to bang the top of the dash to get it to so it would go ring, 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 and I'd hit it and run.
So
Talk of my life. So I found a really hairy girlfriend.
Not me.
Not her.
okay.
I like how they all paused.
I was 16.
We were wondering for a second. We were like, wait a minute.
Oh my God, he's a dead man.
Not me.
All right, so Stabby.
Something that Nick actually just said was actually interesting about you cosplaying and saying how like you got it off and there were like salt rings and all this stuff and just how everything just had this lived in feel. Yeah, because like this is kind of one of the unintended consequences, I guess, of the age of the green screen, right?
Yeah.
When Lucas needed to film thanks, Brain. Luke's home planet with the two suns. Sorry, guys. Tatooine. He went to Tunisia. When he had to film Hoth, he went to Norway. Everything was actually genuine. And you know, I was talking with Damascus Minsmeyer a while back at Critical Blast. He said, you know, the most real looking CGI still looks fake, but the cheapest real special effects still register as being more real than even really good CGI. He says it's like you can tell that something's really genuine. So yeah, you know, nowadays if they've got to go to whatever planet, they just, you know, shoot it in a soundstage. I watched the trailer for Ashoka a while back, and the only thing I can think of while I'm watching that whole thing is everything looks fake. It's too clean. It looks like it was done in iMovie. Everybody looks like they're scared to really move because they're gonna, like, you know, disturb the image that's supposed to be on the green screen in the back in some way. And so as a result, I think a lot of people have trouble getting invested in the shows now in a way that, like with Lucas's stuff that was actually filmed in real places, they could just get completely absorbed. What do you guys think about that?
I think there's something to be said for the laziness that comes with acting when you're relying on technology and the green screen. But one thing I like about the Star Wars fandom is how creative they are. Like they do the armor, like the joke about the Yeti being a Bigfoot was a lost lieutenant, is a Wookiee, whatever. Like there's so much creativity that you see from the average Star Wars fan. Like T-shirt lied, dark side have no cookies. Right? Like that's one of the franchises, and I think
I saw this one earlier. That was great.
I think part of it is because Star Trek went so hard on the fandom stuff, and George Lucas is like, have fun. And so you get some of the most creative people I've ever seen are Star Wars fans doing their cosplay, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and the fan films
Well,
too.
I'm a
Don't forget
card-carrying
those.
member of the 501st. So
Vader's fist.
Vader's Fist. You know, we were so excited as a whole when it only became canon in episode 3. You know, which is a funny story because Lucasfilm freaking hated us.
Why?
Because we were encroaching on their brand. There's a bunch of guys that knew how to make props that they didn't authorize, going out and doing children's hospital visits and doing marches. You know, Steve Sansweet and Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni got his start in fan relations dealing with the 501st. That's how we got into Lucasfilm. So we met Dave many times. We met Kathleen Kennedy many times. We probably should have.
I'm sorry.
No way.
She who shall not be named.
Yeah, she's the Voldemort of Star Wars.
I swear, you know, as much as I hate that gay Harry Potter fandom stuff about Voldemort, she is about the closest thing when it comes to Star Wars fans to an actual Voldemort figure, man. You don't say Kathleen Kennedy's name, you spit it.
Yeah.
I mean, not just Star Wars fans. That chick's managed to single-handedly destroy half of my childhood, if not more. No, don't even go on her.
But I've tried out a lot of the costumes. So like the Snow Trooper, definitely don't wear it anywhere other than an icy tundra.
You were in Mando for maybe an hour.
I was in Mando for maybe an hour in October, and I was sweating buckets.
Wow.
I took my helmet off, and I looked like I dumped my head in a trough. I was just sweating. So I was like, man, I got one of these pouches. I got to put a bottle of water in there, you know, something.
Wound up a Jedi by the end of the
Yeah, I ended up switching out and becoming a Jedi, which wasn't that much better.
It's still like 5
It's
layers.
it's like 5 layers in a robe, and then
you could just be like the janitor on the Death Star, because then you could wear whatever you want.
I want to do that. I want to do the SNL skit.
Yeah.
What's his name? The guy that played Kylo Ren.
Adam Driver.
Yeah, he was playing.
Yeah, it was a undercover boss. It was great.
Nice. So speaking of undercover boss, Stabby, since you're the matriarch of the Garber household, so how did you first discover the Star Wars?
Fun story. I actually was returning Indiana and the Raiders to Blockbuster, and I was in love with it. I was in love with everything that was Harrison Ford at that point in time. But I was the only one in my family that liked horror movies or sci-fi. And the guy at the Blockbuster, you know, gave him my card. I was like, hey, so got anything else? What do you got? And he's like, you might want to watch Star Wars. And I took it home that night and I fell in love from that point on. And I'm not picky. I am not picky. I am not the one. I don't pick, you know, prequel versus OG. I just love Star Wars. I don't care.
Who shot first?
You're so sleeping on the couch.
Han shot first.
Okay.
I have a shirt that says
Han was the only one that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greedo didn't get a chance.
Greedo never even got a shot off.
Have you seen the spoofs that came? Remember with the ending of Game of Thrones and somebody had like a Starbucks cup and they forgot it there and it made the episode, and then they started doing the re-edits of Han shooting and there's like a Starbucks cup.
Oh no.
I'm old enough to remember the pack of Marlboros on Luke's X-Wing.
Wait, what?
That mysteriously vanished after they did the CGI redo.
And when he called Carrie by her name.
Yeah.
Carrie. Yeah. They kept in the stormtrooper racking his nug though, so I'm appreciative.
You gotta keep that. Come
Yeah.
on.
So, okay, so first off, I didn't know about the marble. So what was going on with that one? I haven't heard this.
It was right as Luke was landing, and it was after the Death Star had been blown up, and there was just like this quick shot of Luke, and you could see outside the cockpit to the wing, the upper S-foil, I guess you want to be technical, of his X-Wing, and there's a freaking pack of Marlboros sitting on it.
Yeah, reds.
Cowboy
And
Well, blended in with the paint job at least.
Oh, did you see that? And then it's gone. It's been digitally erased.
The rebellion was pretty hardcore as far as their tobacco of choice in a galaxy far, far away.
They weren't like the army guys dipping all the time. No.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing that right now. There's no space dip. If I made a Star Wars fan film, I'm having my lead character. First thing he's doing is packing a chow.
No, Folgers dip, man.
Order.
You got to do the Folgers dip.
No, we're not in Ranger School. We don't have to do that shit.
He's not talker. Come on.
We did that crap in Iraq too. Because
oh man, I would love to see a shot of a cockpit and just have somebody's face covered by the helmet except for the lower jaw, right? And just have them go to a cup holder, pick up a spit cup, and while he's in the middle of a really tense run, and just go.
Jack Porkins would do that.
Porkins was definitely a spitter.
You know he chewed, man.
I mean, Porkins. We all have a little Porkins in us, so I'm just going to say that.
And
he was too fat to chew.
Edge definitely did coke. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah,
who did?
So
Edge Antilles.
Yeah,
yeah. Wedge and Pork. Tell me, Wedge and Pork wouldn't be like an awesome buddy comedy.
Oh, that would have
been fantastic,
right?
They even went. Mike Stackpole, I think it was, in the Rogue Squadron books at some point, it made it canon that Porkins, because he was so heavy, had his inertial compensators dialed way back so he wasn't crushed by his own weight when he's doing high turns and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what killed him, because he couldn't really feel how the X-Wing was maneuvering at that point, and that's how he died. It was just like, wow.
The dampeners were dialed way back. Yeah.
And it's also led to Mikey Mason. He does folk songs, basically spoofing various fandoms. That inspired his "Too Fat to Troop" song about he'd still be alive and not a virgin if he was been skinny enough to get in the cockpit.
Probably the most famous Star Wars song aside from MC Chris and his Boba Fett rap.
Yeah,
that's a good one too. We play them for you, dear listener, but copyrights are a thing, and they will ding us if we try.
Well, as long as we're talking Star Wars parody spoofs, I gotta jump in here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy who spoofs pop songs named Rucka Ali. He did one that was a spoof of a song called "Hideaway." That some one hit teen pop starlet did this sweet pop song called "Hideaway." And he wrote a song called "Star Wars is Kinda Gay," and it's absolutely hilarious. If you want to look it up, Rucka Ali, all of this stuff is hilarious. It's risque, just to give you that out there, but check that out if you're ever on YouTube again, because it's hilarious.
We're gonna pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the man, and then Nick, when we get back, we'll have to tell how we found the Star Wars.
Sounds good.
They were called the Human Marine Corps, but their cause was never humanity's. Until the sleeper awoke. A century ago, all but 2 members of Lance Scipio's unit were executed for bringing dishonor to his regiment. Now he wakes into a strange new time and is tasked with whipping into shape the worst squad of misfits in the entire Human Marine Corps. The price of failure? Death. This completed series is set in the worlds of the hit Human Legion series by Tim C. Taylor, now released with a special novelette titled No Marine Left Behind, Freedom Can Be Won. So dive into this debut novel by author J.R. Handley as he takes you on an action-filled sequence of military science fiction glory.
I dig it. I like the helmet. So I got one. I know you can't hear me, but because we're not on the comms, apparently it's a secure clone. I don't know. I almost said Elcoms, but that's the wrong franchise. But if you turn it upside down, you don't look as scary. You're smiling. All right, so I actually found Star Wars and then let him breathe because it looks like it broke his nose. I found Star Wars through.
There's no room for a human head in this. No wonder they couldn't hit shit.
You have to tilt your head down to take it off. And he did it, and he caught his nose.
Nick, you need to go back to Wrecker.
Did you guys see the? Did you guys see the recent Babylon Bee headline that said Megan Rapinoe sent to Stormtrooper Academy to teach Stormtroopers how to shoot?
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
She's on the take.
I I don't want to get sued, so I'm just gonna smile and nod. But yeah,
I got lawyers.
okay. So I actually found Star Wars through the books, Rogue Squadron. I was at my library and they just happened to have them, and I was a voracious reader. And I got told in the 3rd or 4th grade that I couldn't read Stephen King in class because that was not age appropriate, which is really the only reason I was reading it, because I knew they wouldn't like it. Go figure, me, the rebel.
Definitely not if it was it.
I think it might have been Carrie I was reading.
That's not appropriate.
Is Carrie or it? It was one of the two, because I got in trouble for both of them. I just don't remember which one was first.
It will definitely get you in trouble, yeah.
So when they finally took those books away and they told my mom, like, Handley's not reading that in class, and they gave me the book 1 of the Rogue Squadron, and it was just, that's how I found it. And I'm like, this is awesome. And the teacher was like, if you don't get in trouble for a week, I'll let you borrow my VHS of the movie. And I'm like, there's a movie? And that was it. It was all over.
You're like,
it's probably
what?
the only week I didn't talk out of turn and like forget to raise my hand, and
Perfect JR.
Yeah, I know. Motor Mouth in the South. I know you're shocked.
First thing I'm visiting it with a time machine. Perfect JR era.
Yeah, that week where I shut up.
1 week.
Yeah, 1 week.
1 week.
Synchronize my swatch on that one.
Oh, your swatch. You're gonna wear parachute pants too?
I have parachute pants and a
Bondi bandana
and a tank top. A tank top where my nipples are exposed, because it was just like right here. And I'll be made out of like fishnet, because that is so late 80s, early 90s.
I think this was before the parachute pants and the mullet, but I can't be sure. But I had those.
Oh, mullet, God.
I look
Remember,
at those
kids,
pictures.
a mullet's a haircut, not a fish.
Yes. I look at those pictures and I'm like, why the hell did my parents let me do this to myself? And I told my mom that. It's like, we tried to tell you it looks stupid.
Well, because kids in that era were treated like, parents treated them like not like a blessing like today's parents. It was like they were definitely a burden. It's like, yeah, whatever you want. Look stupid. See if I care. Actually, let me get a picture real quick for you.
Look stupid somewhere else. Be outside. Don't come back till dark.
My grandpa used to tell me to go play in traffic.
Right. And we did it.
I'm coming traffic.
We were the last generation of feral children.
Yeah, you remember that when you'd be playing in the street and they'd be like, car, game on, when you had and you had to run to beat the streetlights home.
Streetlights.
We were just feral kids from like 8 in the morning till like whenever the streetlights came out, which was like during the summers, like somewhere around 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it was like 9.
Latchkey
kids. I grew up in New York City, and we played stickball in the street using manhole covers for home plate and second base. And there'd usually be a couple of fire hydrants on either side. So we had a very narrow but very long baseball diamond.
Yeah.
But
like
there'd constantly be cars coming. We'd still play in the street.
If you could knock a home run playing street ball in New York, you were destined to knock one out of Fenway.
You were destined to break somebody's windows.
Well, that too.
I remember when
nothing but houses around.
I'm sorry, Diego. I didn't mean to break your bodega.
Yeah, I was going home and I was crossing.
Ay, caramba, run!
Oh, that's the Sandlot all over again. If you guys remember that movie.
Which one?
The Sandlot.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It had Vader in it.
You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls. And he got the kiss, though. He got the kiss. I'm just saying. The nerd carried the day.
Come on. How many of us guys actually tried that the next summer? Come on.
Yeah, but the lifeguards at my pool were fat dudes, so I was like not trying it. I thought about it, but there were no girls.
I was the lifeguard.
Did anybody try it on you?
I was a lifeguard at a water park. So not just, the normal neighborhood kids. This was a water park in the middle of the Las Vegas Strip.
Oh, wow.
We had kids from everywhere.
You had a really good solid chance of seeing a titty.
This is a family-friendly show.
That's a job that'll grow you up fast.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I'm gonna say
the other side of the fence is like
the European
all the street entertainers.
Nobody warned me about that when I hit Germany. Hey, we're going to the Schwimmbad, boys. You want to go? Yeah, sure. I get there. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I seeing?
My person eyes.
I was 16 years old, the darkest sunglasses I possibly could find at the mall. just so nobody could see how embarrassed I would get at certain points. And when the European men would come in, they'd be in their,
a Speedo!
their golden
Speedo, yeah.
Speedo.
You like my
thong.
Speedo, yeah?
It was full thong. Full thong.
Oh, yeah.
And
No
sparkly.
mankinis yet. Thank you, Borat.
Yeah.
Every single one was sparkly.
I still
And I'd
own
just
one.
be sitting there like,
You know,
keep it straight.
Deine Bratwurst.
as a proud red-blooded American male, as we all are here, I still have to admire the confidence of the average hairy, overweight European male in a Speedo. I just don't have that kind of confidence, man.
I own the
Can't do it.
I understand what you want.
They have no fear. No fear.
None.
So, yeah, she's our Speedo. She likes you. Yeah. Pull that all the way up.
So I
Oh, it
remember
was the French guys. Put your freaking
we're here to talk about Star Wars. No Ranger panties here today,
You're
man.
being very naughty, and I like it.
I did not see that coming, Sean.
Right?
You
was
did
a lot
not
of
see that
French
coming?
guys,
Oh.
and
I
they-
remember when I was crossing the cross. We're trying to move to family-friendly territory, so I'm just gonna tell about getting hit by a car. It seems safer.
Then my hairy legs. Oh God, I gotta get.
Yeah. I remember though that I got hit by a guy that ran the red
Watch, this
light.
is going to go up, and I'm going to be like, huh, man, I could have sworn we went 15 minutes longer.
Edited for content.
But I remember the cop was shocked at how far from home I was, and he because he was from somewhere else than the South, and he's like, your parents know you're this far away, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, as long as I can make it back before the street lights, we're good, sir.
Yeah.
So, all right, Nick, how did you find the wild, woolly world of Star Wars?
Okay, so I was unfortunately born a year late from opening of the original Star Wars movie. So I was born in '78. I think Empire was the first one I saw, and it was on television in 1983. And the first one I saw in theaters was Jedi in 1983. My mom was a big sci-fi fan. My dad would fall asleep anytime anything sci-fi related showed up on TV. It was like a train to the neck with him. So that was kind of our bonding thing. So she took me to go see Return of the Jedi, and I fell in love with Return of the Jedi. I will defend Return of the Jedi. It's the first one that I saw. It had a little bit more lightsaber play in there, a little lightsaber foo going on in there.
Lightsaber baby.
I had
Speedo Bike Chase still holds up.
yeah, and it still holds up.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favorites. Don't get me wrong, I like A New Hope, but I put that on when I want to take a nap.
Yes, when the melatonin doesn't work.
Yeah, when the melatonin doesn't work, I go to Disney Plus, go right to Trank to the Neck, which is A New Hope, and boom, done. I'm fast asleep. Empire, for some reason, it was a very slow burn, but it kept me captivated. I was like, oh shit, what's gonna happen next? Oh my god. Jedi was just like, all right, cool, we got guerrilla fighters. This is awesome. Because like my two loves growing up was like spec ops soldier guys and space wizards that were samurais. So Jedi had both of those for me. Was a big fan of Han. His trench coat, his camo trench coat was the shit. I'm still trying to find that thing that will not make me look stupid, but I think that is a silly quest. So I got the action figure on that. That'll have to do.
No, don't give up. Don't give up. It's out there. Find it.
I can't. No, we're not doing that. That goes in my I was once a soldier trunk.
Fine.
The raincoat that I never wore. With
Did
the rain-
anybody ever? You just sweated so much with the raincoat. You're better off just getting wet anyway.
I wore it once. I was on funeral detail, and it just happened to be pouring down rain. And that wasn't my call. That was the
Uniform of the day. Got it.
the uniform of the day. So I didn't wear my Class A jacket, so it was just the white shirt, the tie underneath the raincoat. So
Okay.
I did break the rules a little bit on that one. But if you looked at my NCOERs and OERs, I was known for that. So
I'm just saying, I was a corporal a couple times. I was so good at it.
I was a corporal so awesome, they made me do it 4 times in a row.
So I celebrated the first time I made corporal at Bragg, and I'm just saying I celebrated maybe a little too hard. And the next day they're like, PFC Handley, and I'm like, no, corporal. And they're like, no, you're not understanding.
There's a Sam Kinison joke about that.
Yeah, I kept it for a day the first time, a week the second time, and I was so bad at it the third time they made me a sergeant.
I screwed up so bad as a first lieutenant that they're like, we don't know what to do with them. And then one guy's like, well, we could promote him. I screwed up so bad they made me a captain.
I almost
Belly
thought
upwards.
I was gonna be a staff sergeant, but I told an officer my opinion when what he really wanted was me to give him his opinion in my words.
Oh, you never do that. You never do that.
It wasn't in the manual. Like I went to PLDC and they didn't teach me that there.
It's not in the manual.
I never made it out of the Spec 4 Mafia,
so it's in the penumbras,
I
where
do it all
pilots keep
over
finding
again.
all the rules they make up. It's in the penumbras.
I would have been a sham shield warrior for life. 20 years getting out as an E4.
Do you think you could translate something like that into like a sci-fi property, like a Star Wars or any of these, to give the concept of what is the E4 Mafia?
I submitted a short story to an anthology a while back. They were doing one that was specifically geared for the Spec 4 Mafia, and whatever sci-fi setting you want. So I just basically took my air defense artillery unit and turned it into a space defense artillery unit. And I based all the characters on the people that I hung out with when I was in the unit. And my main character was in the maintenance platoon and ends up in a whole lot of trouble. And it was a lot of fun to write.
So if it flies, it dies.
Yeah. It was, instead of a Hawk missile, it became a Star Hawk missile. You know, you had to be science fiction.
Silver Hawk missile would have been awesome.
Yes, it would have. So I dig the ears, by the way, Stabby.
They match my hair, so like it's really hard to tell that there's actually Chewy ears going on.
They're perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, when that happened.
So we talked about
when I stopped going out in the sun, it stopped getting blonder. So
wear that later tonight.
so we've talked about sort of how we found Star Wars, and we've riffed on all the things we don't like, and we could probably do like a dozen episodes where we do nothing but talk Star Wars. But we might, there are entire podcasts on it.
Get those rage clicks, JR.
Yeah,
that's where the money is.
One of the things that pissed me off.
Shot first.
Yeah, one of the things that pissed me off when Disney bought it was that they got rid of the legends, they call it now, the books. Now I get why they had to do it. From a creative point of view, George Lucas never said no to an idea. So if you look at how far apart things are, like there's no way Han and Leia are over here on Monday and over there on Tuesday. There's just no time to get from point A to point B with some of these plots. There was a lot of conflicting on those, and so they kind of had to pick and choose.
Hyperdrive.
Yeah, but there's some known distances on hyperdrive to get from certain points. And the problem is everyone that wrote the original books wanted Han and Luke and Leia. They didn't write about the average stormtrooper right away.
Here's where I'm going to sample your argument. So they did get away with the EU or legends, but then when they tried their own thing and completely crapped on legacy characters, what did they do? They went back.
And they started raiding the old stuff.
With the shit that worked.
No, so okay, so you're not understanding what I'm saying. I understand why they couldn't accept, because you weren't listening. You were checking out your wife. I get it, but pay attention. I get it. I totally do.
We're all checking out. Let's be real about this.
Okay, so part of the problem is just that it didn't create a coherent and cohesive chronology. So they would have had to pick it item by item. There were a few you could have gotten rid of and fixed the timeline and accepted everything else. Having said that, they could have pulled all of those ideas in when they were building the new official canon, and they just was like, no, we're better than all of those ideas, and then they failed miserably.
Because they did a hat. They tried to copy Heir of the Empire, and they screwed it up. It's like when you hand it to your friend who's kind of freaking dumb because he didn't do his homework the night before. And he's like, hey, man, can I copy yours? And you're like, yeah, but, change it a little bit so it don't look like it. And then they completely screw it up where they got an F. Oh my God! I'm so mad at Kathleen Kennedy. I hope she.
I feel your pain. I hate it too, but I get why they couldn't take it whole cloth. Why they had to pick and choose.
No, you could have tweaked a lot of stuff.
Yes,
tweaked a lot of stuff. The first novelization that I read outside of the original trilogy was Splinter in the Mind's Eye. Great.
Debbie's calming him down.
Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and then Shadow of the Empire. That's another good one. That happened.
Yes, I've got that book on my bookshelf.
Return of the Jedi. So, and then I got into the other shit, like the Young Jedi series and Heir to the Empire, where you start bringing in Grand Admiral Thrawn. They had all the material right there. They had the layout. All they had to do was tweak some stuff to make it for the amount of time that had passed. That's all they had to do. And
I agree.
They cocked it up.
Absolutely.
They cocked it up so bad, even Dave Filoni was like, they cocked it up. They cocked it up. I'm not high up enough. I can't fix it.
I don't know if I can fix this. I'm sorry.
I don't know if I can fix this. If I leather hat, I can't do it.
I'm just saying, I understand why they couldn't just blatantly accept all of it. They had to use their brain. Unfortunately, they didn't use their brain. They just said no to everything and then messed it all up. I think
that was more of a studio-directed thing than anything else. I don't think there was a creative mind in the freaking house. Because let's look at when they started the sequel trilogies. All right, so you got, what the hell was it called? The Force Awakens, which is a retelling of frickin' A New Hope.
Yes, shot for shot.
And then you bring in Ryan Johnson. And he's like, oh, I'm going to do my own thing. You don't have to be a Skywalker. Star Wars is the Skywalker saga. Skywalker. It's in the name. It's right there. And he's like, no, everybody can be a Jedi. And then you had that stupid casino planet thing that had nothing to do with the story. Then you had the Holdor maneuver with the purple-haired chick. Like, no, I'm not going to tell my subordinates what's going on. And then gets mad that there was a mutiny. It's like, I think she's keeping something from us. Like, you know what? I think you're right, too. I think she's trying to turn us over to something. I don't know, but it's not good. And then she gets pissed. And then you had Mary Poppins frickin' Leia. What the because we're family friendly. What the hell, man? Someone who they never showed in the official canon. And by official canon, I mean the movies. Because they already rejected the books. In the books, she was Force sensitive. She did training with Luke, which they didn't bring out till
she was actually called Lady Vader by her bodyguards.
Yeah,
the reptilians that served Vader before her. Yeah. And she became a full-fledged Jedi. She started out with a red saber. Yep. So.
And wasn't it made by Vader for her?
I think it was, if I remember right. It's been a long time since I read that.
Her birthright.
Yeah.
To take over, and not necessarily as a Sith, but it's because he had some.
I think that the thing about the Legends that disappointed me the most was they started making noise recently that they were going to bring Mara Jade into the live action. So I was like, don't you dare bring my Mara Jade into this crap.
You're screwed up.
No, don't do that. You're already screwed up. The only reason I really liked her was that she was a badass and she married Luke. That was cool. That was dope. Don't bring her into this now. Now that you've destroyed Luke and everything he stands for, don't
do it.
How bad is it that you've got fans begging studios not to bring in?
It says a lot about
characters that haven't been brought in yet.
Really.
I mean, it's not because we don't want to see them live action. We just know once the studio gets their hands on it, they're going to screw it up. They're going to
see them, but we want to see them. We want to see them, but we want to see them respected.
Yeah, we want source material respected, and that's. I mean, we could segue into comic book movies too, the same way.
Right, and now. Speaking of the books in the extended universe and all that other stuff, Declan and I have been kind of covering. I don't know if you guys have seen a couple of years ago. They launched this High Republic line of books and comics.
Oh, they're horrible. Have you seen the comics?
Okay,
Jedi rock.
We got our a rock, masculine women and feminine men. Those are the kinds of characters that they're writing. We got our hands on their book sales numbers. And they've, within the 2 years since they've launched it, they've dropped about 90%. They've had one book that has broken 100,000 copies. One book. And they've had like 3 phases so far. Like the YA novels don't barely break into 10,000s. YA should be one of the hottest markets, right? For Star Wars,
target market,
right? We got characters that look like they came out of a 4-year liberal arts degree with side shave haircuts and purple hair, and
but it's edgy.
You got Jedi who are fucking overweight.
Yeah,
right?
that's me.
Because they gotta. So, Bounding in the Comics just reported a few days ago. Guess what? They're winding the series down. They just announced that a few days ago.
Did they introduce a Gamorrean Jedi in that series?
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at anything at this point.
Like, I have a friend. Well, I still. He wanted to be a Jedi, and he was like, "I don't know if I can," because he was like a solid 500 pounds. He's a big dude, Yeah. And I'm like, "Let's paint you green and put a pig mask on you. You could be a Gamorrean Jedi." And this was like early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like,
That
that totally worked.
could be kind of interesting.
Because they're not known for being smart.
One of the things I liked about the books, if we go back to that, because as far as I'm concerned, you guys are having a fever dream because those movies don't exist. In fact, that might have been what Han, when he was in Kryptonite, what he was just dreaming that nightmare. But did any of you guys read the Commando books that Karen Travis wrote?
The Republic Commandos?
Yeah, the Republic Commandos.
I read book 1 and 2.
I think I read the first one.
I like that they started exploring, later they started saying, there's more characters in this universe than Han and Leia and Luke. And you started seeing the troopers on the various, the Republic, the Empire of all that. I really liked those series. Did you guys, so you guys didn't get into that? What's your favorite?
It's not that I wasn't into it. It's that I got out of touch with it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Life got in the way and I couldn't read those anymore. What I really loved about those books, it started introducing the idea of individual personalities within the clones.
Yes.
Because we hadn't gotten to that yet because Clone Wars hadn't come out. I liked that. That was really cool because they were all individuals and they had nicknames for each other. I thought that was really cool. And there was like a brotherhood and camaraderie to it. Those are what I enjoyed the most. I would love to get back into that. I don't know how far behind I am.
So was there a certain part of the lore then that everyone can weigh in? I liked learning about the Commandos, be it, because everyone rah rebels, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they were space ISIS. The Empire was just trying to keep the peace, right? They're trying to keep the pirates at bay, stop them from doing the parsecs on the Kessel Run, right? They just got to keep the space lanes clear.
No, I agree with you. I'm 100% Empire.
So I really dug that they were showing the average trooper. And there's a scene in one of the original movies when when Luke is running away and Han is running away, and you see the troopers walk, they look and shrug, turn around, and they're like, no, I'm not getting paid enough to worry about this. And they go the other direction. That was the most enlisted thing I've ever seen.
No. The most enlisted thing ever. The most enlisted thing ever is the two troopers in the first Star Wars movie where they're maybe it's another drill.
Exactly.
They immediately stop caring and start talking about, hey, did you see that new model of I thought it was pretty
We're
cool.
all mind melding right now, which is
so great.
Franchises, but whatever.
But I like seeing the average. I'm all about the everyday hero, the average Joe point of view. I like that when I write my books. I like that when I read my books. I mean, the Spec Ops guys are cool and all, but at a certain point in time, it's hard for the average person to imagine themselves there.
That's what got me into the Galaxy Edge books in the beginning. Because it was Star Wars from the trooper's perspective.
Yeah.
And I dug that. And then it got away from that and I stopped reading. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, Nick's my friend, but he ain't getting any more of my money. And so you start, showing me PFC Schmeppy, on the front lines. I want more PFC Schmeppy. Maybe special Schmedlap too.
So let me ask you guys, since you kind of like that sort of trope of the ground level hero sort of thing. How do you kind of balance the desire that a reader wants for escapism with the relatability of the character while not drifting off into goofy meta stuff, you know what I mean? When you're writing a character like that, how would you sort of do that?
You just got to make the stakes there for them at a personal level. It doesn't have to change the flow of the whole battle, but it changes it for them because if I don't hold this flank, my buddy over there that owes me $100 because I beat him at poker last night isn't going to live to pay me.
Or spades, probably.
Or spades.
Dominoes
was a big one we did on the road too.
Yeah. I think for me, JR, if you're done.
I am. I think you tie it to their friends. Why do soldiers fight? For the guy on the left and the right of them. They don't hate what's in front of them. They love what's beside them.
I look at it, and pretty much anything I write, most, as everybody knows, I do comic books. I do capes and cowls. It's the why do I care about the central character? What challenges him?
Mm-hmm.
What obstacles does he face at his level? He's not so.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make things focused on the central character at hand and why he cares and why you should care. But mostly at that level, it's the everyman. You try to hit the everyman approach, right? It's like, okay, if I was that dude wearing that armor in that environment, holy shit, what would I do? What would I care about? I obviously care about the guys on the left or right of me because they're going to keep me alive. I'm going to try and keep them alive. But like, do I care about the geopolitical economic struggle that's going on between the Alliance and the frickin' Empire? I don't care about that shit. Every guy that's ever done any time in the sandbox or spent some time in a two-way live fire, he don't care about that crap. He cares about how he's going to get fed, where he's going to sleep that night. If he has enough medical attention, should he catch one, is going to be okay. We don't care about that stuff. Or it's more of a, I want to say it's a, it's almost like prehistoric. It's a survivability instinct.
It's like a primordial.
Yeah, it's like something that people, humanoid type creatures, if you want to put an alien aspect to it too, is that they've all dealt with it. We've all dealt with survival. We've all dealt with war and combat and conflict, and not one of us, we made our own politics of what we were fighting for. Never did we think about like, oh, well, the Alliance is trying to get down the Empire because we're no longer a free state. They're, robbing us of 50% of all of our planetary resources and our GDP is falling and blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. The guy on the ground with the rifle getting shot at, he don't give a shit. He just wants to make sure he can make it till the end of his deployment and go home.
To your point, that's one of the things I liked about Andor is that, you had your political schemes and chicanery going on in the background with, the guy that runs the junk shop there and all that. But then you've got Andor who just wants to get paid and
just wants his bag, son.
And that is so real to me. That,
he wanted to get back to his mom.
Yeah, all these guys talking about all this smack about writing treatises and manifestos and crap. He's like, dude, I just want to go home. That's all we want at the end of the day.
My mom and my droid.
I want my mom and my droid. That's all I want. Yeah. So for a regular, like, let's take it to our level. Like, all I cared about in Iraq, getting home to my dog and getting paid and not dying. That's all I cared about. Well, and my kid, my first kid. Like, I had things that I wanted to go back to. I didn't care about what treaties were being signed. I sat in a lot of meetings between colonels and tribal leaders. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I don't give a shit about any of what you guys are talking. All I want you guys is to be chill so I don't get shot at or blown up, And then I'm thinking, this is where it went dark. It was later on to the point where my brain's like, start going really dark. I'm like, you know what? If I just offed everybody in this room, it would be better.
I mean, at a certain point in time, and this is
Mad Dog always said, always have a plan to kill everybody in the room.
And have a knife in case there's cake or you have to stab somebody.
So
I had two because I love cake.
So me too. So one of the things I like though is when you get those gritty stories because that's where the rubber meets the road. Like at a certain point in time, you're above the fray when you get promoted. It's this people on the ground, the 18, 19-year-old kid who's like doesn't get a say in anything. That's putting the policy into action where it matters. And at a certain point in time, one of the ways that people survive, and it's kind of grim, is you just accept that you're dead already.
Yeah. I think one of the things I love about new Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, I love The Mandalorian season 1 because it's what Michael had said. It was the Western that we were promised for Star Trek and we never got. I love the Western aspect of it, even into season 2, season 3, which was the Bo-Katan show. We won't get into that. Mandalorian was cool. Andor was cool. I love Rogue One. I love it. I think it's probably one of the best new Star Wars out there, and it ties up with the original trilogy. Because, there was a little bit of the politics above them, but it was just a bunch of dudes trying to get a job done. And it was gritty and it was dirty, and we can get into the tactics another time, but they were doing guerrilla stuff. It was, and they brought in Blue Squadron for the first time, which I had read about as a kid in novelizations, Blue Squadron. But it's the first time we get to see him because, CGI had gone past blue screen. So love those. Love that. I love that everyman. I love that grittiness. And it wasn't necessarily tied to legacy characters. And I think those are probably some of the best stories we're getting is that they're not tied to legacy characters. And I think that's where kind of Mando jumped the shark. We started bringing in legacy characters.
Yeah, but Rogue One did give us Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, yeah. Who character was in Rebels, character was in Clone Wars, so you got to see the evolution of Saul Guerrera, and I love seeing Forrest Whitaker because that's one of my favorite things to say when somebody says something stupid. Like you give me Forrest Whitaker eye. Yeah, you give me Forrest Whitaker eye.
So the one thing that they messed up in Star Wars is I've never seen anyone give the knife hand. I'm like, that was a missed opportunity.
I figured I would have saw it from the Empire, but now looking back, it probably would have been a rebellion thing. And I think that's like if we could do a rebellion commando boot camp fan film, there would be lots of saber hand because that's probably what they would call it, saber hand.
They would call it saber hand for sure.
Yeah.
And then, like, as your hazing ritual, they make you drink that blue milk that Luke was drinking on that island.
The blue milk.
At least the ones that
drink it, but you have to go get it yourself.
Yeah.
That's true story. That's what gave Forrest Whitaker his eye. He drank the milk.
We got the blue milk.
You drink if you mix green and blue milk, you do get Forrest Whitaker eye.
It's science.
Oh, that's great.
So we've talked about what we like, and we there's a lot more ground here. We'll probably do some more Star Wars, and we'll hit the other franchises. We found out recently, and it was a shocking revelation. Luckily, Nick is forgiving, so he didn't divorce her. But Stabby has not seen Firefly, so we're going to fix that and do a breakdown of that. It will definitely come back for more Star Wars. So if you've got Star Wars questions,
wow,
what dear listener?
So let's just leave it at that. It's a youth thing.
But
as soon as she sees it, I guarantee you she'll be wearing.
At least she'll be able to see them in order.
She'll be the original order, not what Fox deemed. We'll see Serenity first, not the movie.
I have ADHD brain 90% of the time, so I have to either force myself to sit down and really focus. And be ready to watch it, because if I'm not ready to watch it, I'm all of a sudden in the kitchen washing dishes, and then I realize I need to mop, and then I realize that I need to clean the bathroom, and then the dog needs a bath.
And there's doom piles in the office. Now I gotta go.
And then the next thing you know, it's 2 hours later, you haven't gotten anything done, and you don't know why you're exhausted.
I haven't watched any of the shows.
And then she wonders why I'm asleep on the couch.
So if anybody is listening and you're part of the Stabby fan club, she just wants you to know you probably have clothes in your dryer that need to be folded.
Yes. Oh shit.
See what I mean? So
we just checked something on her to-do list. Good job, Jared.
Relax. If it's in the dryer, it's dry. Leave it till tomorrow morning.
Sleeping on the couch again as she deals with that and finds 9 other things to do.
So we'll definitely be back. So dear listener, dear viewer, if you've got topics within Star Wars, no matter how niche that you want us to talk about, we will. If you want these 2 specific guests to come back and get nerdy with us, like, we're game. The beauty of this is we're just having the nerd conversations we would have anyway. Now we're recording them and you get to listen to our insanity. I mean, our brilliance. So with that being said, before we wrap this up, we're going to start in order. Gallagher, what part of the franchise do you want to see more of if it's done right and not by Kathleen Kennedy? Or read more of? Books count.
I would love to see a treatment of the Tales of the Bounty Hunters. That was an anthology that was released in the extended universe that had stories about all of the legendary bounty hunters in the Star Wars extended universe, like IG-88 and those guys. And right, that and Tales from Jabba's Palace, I thought, were 2 anthologies that were just set the mark for Star Wars short fiction, and I'd love to see that stuff brought to film.
Despite the fact that
the bounty hunters, those guys.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, LaVoice? LaVoice.
I'm almost right there with Gallagher on the bounty hunter thing. But what I think I'd really like to see is, what I don't want to see is Rogue One destroyed. I'm glad they, shelved that project, because that wasn't going to be the Stackpole version. But I would really love to, speaking of getting away from major characters, I'd love to see Karan Horn in live action. I mean, he was great as a character. Stackpole really developed him. And when I found those books, I was already a Stackpole fan because I'm a huge Battletech fan, and he'd written a bunch of those books. And so I was like, what? Stackpole's writing Star Wars? I'm in. So yeah, I'd love to see Rogue One done properly. That's what I'd really love to see.
Okay. What about you, Stabby? Where do you want to see
Rogue
more?
Squadron, sorry.
Yeah.
Not Rogue One. That's already done. And it was done well.
I'm actually about to get to see what I've been wanting to see. Ahsoka. She's releasing on our anniversary, actually. So I'm super excited about that. I've been wanting to.
I don't have to do a gift. Disney took care of it.
I've been wanting to see, what she was doing between point A and point B of us, running into her and everything. So now we kind of get that little bit of backstory and what she's doing now and everything. I'm really excited. I've already been looking into Ahsoka headdresses because I already got my
All bank account cries.
Nick, you better at least splurge on a gift card or something, man. Trying to throw you a lifeline here, brother.
More, I just bought her.
You gotta do something to have something to hand to her.
He treats me very well all through August.
Please.
So it starts the day after his birthday, which is August 1st. My birthday is actually next Wednesday, August 16th, and then our anniversary is August 23rd. So all through August, I am spoiled rotten, and I've already gotten Bo-Katan's helmet. I've gotten the Armorer's helmet.
Paz Vizsla.
I got Vizsla, and then
we started a new collection.
We started the Indiana Jones collection, but also
I
was looking into actually being Jabba the Hutt for Halloween. So I found one of the blow-up costumes.
I was going to be the Twi'lek slave girl.
I would pay to see
what do I
that.
know?
Your OnlyFans say what?
And Jared, just before we wrap this up, just to throw one hand grenade back through the fandom door just before we sign off here.
We did a holy hand grenade.
Lavoie was just extolling the virtues of the works of Michael Stackpole, who I know is held in very high regard in both Star Wars and Battletech fandom. I'll just put it out there that of all the Star Wars novels that I ever read, and it wasn't all of them, but it was quite a few, he holds the distinction of writing the worst one I've ever read. And I'm not going to say which one. Maybe we can leave that for a cliffhanger for next time. But Stackpole also wrote the worst Star Wars novel I ever read in my life.
And I'm pretty sure I know which one.
So
after we go off, I want to know what you think and see if it's the same one. But yeah, I'll just say that. Maybe we can talk about that next time.
All right. So before I say what I would like to see more of, Garber, what do you want?
Sir.
What do you want?
I got to go with my boy Mikey G up there in the top right. I want more Denizens of the Empire. I want more Tales from Jabba's Palace. I want Dengar.
Yeah.
You know what I want? I want Dengar.
What about that series that Lucas had developed that was kind of like a true crime Underbelly of the Empire series?
Yeah.
That would be
That would have
awesome.
been dope.
I could get behind that.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about like some of the more obscure squadrons that got written about. There was a novel. I never read the novel. I just kind of like read the back cover blurb, but I love the idea. Wraith Squadron. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that one. It was a squadron made up of like death row inmates or something, like prisoners, like that. Yeah, fantastic idea. I'd love to see that story. I'd love to see more of the different squadrons that we didn't get to hear about that were in the books.
So I would like. I'm a sucker for the story of the average everyday grunt on the field. So I would love just more, line commando unit, not number one, not even commando, just like your average trooper. That's like, shit, they don't pay me enough for this, right? Like I love those kinds of stories. They speak to me. There was a really good fan made one.
You want a trilogy of Finn? Is that what you want?
No, that was kind of
that
that was a little too Navy for me. I'm just saying, if you know, you know.
Tales from Empire KP.
Yeah, I mean, I made the mistake of telling a drill sergeant once that when I got in trouble, what are you gonna do? Make me peel potatoes? He literally went out on the economy and bought every potato outside of Fort Bragg just so I could peel them. And then he made me throw them away. We didn't even get to eat them. He made me peel them.
You know what?
They are Handley effing up.
You know what would be a great exchange though? A great exchange would be you've got a stormtrooper or two who've captured a few rebels, and the rebels are just all trussed up, and the troopers, they're giving each other lip back and forth, and one of the troopers mumbles, "I don't get paid enough to deal with this crap." And when the rebels like, "You guys are getting paid?"
It's like that kid
Do
from.
you have any forms I can fill out?
Do I enlist where?
He goes and kind of like slowly rips the rebel patch off.
the
his
Star Wars version of We Are the Millers.
So no,
You're getting paid?
I'm
Dental.
all about- I don't care what franchise. I like reading about the every soldier that's, and they all have different reasons. There's one fan-made movie where like the guys, him and his girlfriend split up and she ended up a rebel and he was in the stormtroopers and he finds her body and it's like he killed her. It was one of the fan-made movies. Like there was some of the best, like Kathleen Kennedy, if she's going to rip somebody off, she needs to look at some of that fan content.
Is that pink one?
It might be. I'm going to have to dig it up. But I
I
remember
think my
watching
favorite two still are Hardware Wars.
Oh,
which
that's
is
a great
like
one.
the original Star Wars parody. And then the one that ripped off the Cops TV show. It featured stormtroopers.
Oh,
Oh, that
Damn
was
it! Damn it,
Oh,
the voice!
so
You,
good.
you stole my.
Got me into the 501st.
who's the one that the comedian did the Space
I was
Force?
going to talk about cops or
Oh, sorry,
troops.
man.
That was it.
Troops.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, what was there was a spoof of Star Wars that came out where they like I'm drawing a blank on it, where they had ludicrous speed, plaid speed, and they were combing the desert with actual combs.
Oh yeah,
Spaceballs.
Baseballs, yeah, that was
Mel Brooks take on
Yeah.
You went plaid.
ludicrous, and everyone's name is asshole.
Well,
She's
if
gone from suck to blow.
who
if
made
you
that man
want-
together?
want a really good fanboys movie.
Fanboys was great.
Fanboys.
Fanboys had a lot of heart. Yeah, that was a great
I-
movie.
There's actually a comic that's going on right now where the premise of the book is fans are so disgusted with what Kathleen Kennedy did that they kidnap Harrison Ford and they chain him to a basement desk and they want him to rewrite the way it should have been. Which is
that
doesn't Harrison hate the franchise? I've heard
No,
that
Harrison
comic is
out of the franchise since Empire.
man. That comic is called Stealing Solo, and it was put out by a guy who runs a massive Star Wars YouTube channel. Me and Declan actually had the opportunity to be on their show a few weeks ago because they picked up our article on Upstream about the collapse of the High Republic book sales. And those guys are super cool. It's called, again, I'm sorry, I know this is a family-friendly show, but this is their name, is World Class Bullshitters. And the guy who's kind of the main host there, he put that comic out. Yeah, he's a huge fan too. You should reach out to him. I'll give you his contact info.
Sure.
He'd be a great person to talk about this.
Why is Declan not on here with his Dave Filoni hat?
Because he moved to Texas and his internet sucks and he has not fixed that yet. We
All
tried
right,
to
so
have
we're
him
gonna
once.
start a GoFundMe to get Starlink by his house, so he had decent internet.
This
So we're gonna have
internet's
Mr.
been down for a
Declan
minute.
here with his Dave Filoni hat.
He does have the orange or purple. No, he has the neon something coat he wears at cons too. That's something else. But yeah. So I think Stories of the Everyman. That's where it's at for me. And yeah, I would like to see more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the colonization missions, because they never really touch on like how they're, we find this new planet, let's go see what's there, let's go build a colony. Like you sort of see them after the fact. It'd be cool to watch an exploration mission in that world.
There's something else I want to add on to that. The last season of The Mandalorian, you saw a clone trooper that wasn't fully Order 66, who was living as a hobo, begging for change.
Okay.
I want to see more stories like that with the clones that didn't fully commit to Order 66 and how they're making their way in the universe.
Or did they remove their regulator chips? Because that happens.
There's that too. I'm still waiting for Crosshair to come around. Hopefully that's in the next season.
And I like Clone Troopers sort of started covering where some of the Jedis were just evil people, like that one that was trying to get all the Clone Troopers killed, and they ended up like having their little rebellion, their mutiny. Like I liked.
You would love the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor if you were a gamer.
I
There's a lot of
If
that.
you like storylines that kind of take you outside of the norm with it, then all of the Indiana Jones movies are just Han Solo's dreams while he's frozen in carbonite.
It's true. It's true. And but yeah, so that's what we would do. Before we let you go, Gallagher, what are you working on right now? What are you writing?
Right now, I am still working on my second book, The Golden Scapular, and some guy keeps bugging me, telling me that there's more anthologies coming up, and he keeps asking me to submit to them. I haven't got the heart to tell him he's crazy and stop emailing me, but we'll see this time.
I'm just saying, look, all right. Hillbilly said he would make
because what was funny was I just wrote like 3 short stories this year for anthologies. I totally burned myself out the first 4 months. I said, I swear to God, I'm never writing another short story the rest of the year. And right after the zombie thing, I get an email from JR saying, hey, I think I got a few more coming up if you're interested, and my brain's not going to be able to say, it's going to see one thing that I'm like, oh my God, I want to write a story for that. And I know I'm not going to be able to say no. So, I'm working on my second book that's going to come out in 2029. That's what I'm working on.
So in my defense, Hillbilly promised me, he's one of the 3 Ravens at 3 Ravens Publishing. He promised me some mead if I'd make 4 anthologies for him, if I'd organize that. And I'm just saying, I love mead.
Do it,
right?
Man.
Like it's homemade and everything. Made with love and poison, probably.
Every time I drink mead, I think of the 13th Warrior.
Yes, me too. That epic scenes. We ought to do a review of the 13th Warrior. You guys
I'm so down.
God, that movie is so good.
Okay, so just so you want to know, because you asked Michael Gallagher, because I have to say Michael Gallagher because there's 2 Michaels. We're doing space boarding action for Mill Sci-Fi. We're doing drop troopers of any kind. We're gonna do dragons, but not Pete's dragon, like the kind that want to eat you instead of let you pet it. And we're gonna do a story about monsters, but you're writing from the monsters POV.
Pete's dragon is a masturbatory euphemism.
Mill Sci-Fi is out for me because I'm a lazy black-hearted civilian. I never feel right trying to write Mill Sci-Fi. It won't come across as genuine. But those other 2, I could definitely probably sink my teeth
this
into.
is why God invented sneeze. Don't be afraid.
Stack up, brother. Let's go.
All right. So now that we've got the peer pressure, one's in the chat if you think Gallagher should write one. All right.
Although I gotta say, now that we've
go ahead.
Now that you guys have been talking about doing the everyman thing, right now I'm just getting this picture in my head of some guy dropping out of a ship in his pod down into the war zone, shitting his power armor, and he's just dropping it, everything going through his head while he's dropping it in hot, as it were.
I'm doing this for an extra $130 on my paycheck. What the hell?
My favorite is the my platoon
sergeant walking across the battlefield.
So my platoon sergeant, when I went into Iraq the second time, was a Vietnam vet. He did his 10. He got out. He hit a certain age and be like, shit, if I'd stayed in, I'd have been retired already. So he went into the guard. He did his 30. He's put in his 30 letter, and they're like, no, Sarge, you're not done yet. And he ended up going to Iraq with me, right, one more time. And he told us, he's like, everybody over there that's talking tough shit about what they're going to do, said, all you're going to see is asses and elbows, kid, asses and elbows. And it's pretty true. The harder they talk, the more likely they were to be the ones to run.
Yep.
So
that's why I didn't talk shit. I was
smart enough to shut my mouth and talk about the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Stabby. So LaVoice, before Stabby stabs me, we're gonna move on past the Dodgers.
You're not
what
even
are you working on right now?
It's me.
So my first series is written. It's in various stages of editing right now. They've got them. I'm not worried about it. I've been working on an outline for a new series that's your basic aliens show up, but instead of being warlike or even peaceful or any of the other things we've seen before, these guys just wipe all the satellites out of the sky and just start grabbing people and making them rape the planet, basically stealing all of our resources. Their goal is eventually to drag everything out of the core. This is what they do. They go from planet to planet doing this. So they've started in the big metropolitan areas, but they forgot about all the preppers in the hills of East Tennessee who survived the initial onslaught. And initially I was going to have this team of Rangers try to make their way as part of this project reclamation.
Yes, use my kind. You have my permission.
I may hit you up for SME stuff later. I've got one ranger on tap for that.
I got
I
you.
need another one.
Hit me up.
But anyway, I got the idea. Speaking of the everyman story, I said, I don't want to make this the main character a ranger. So the main character is a prepper who used to be an MP, who's now a security guard at the Oak Ridge National Lab, which coincidentally is where a bunch of cool alien tech has been stashed. And we're going to use that to fight back.
And then
So
That
it's
sounds
not at,
great.
Area 15
It's going to be a lot of
he's
fun.
engineer, so he's not hated.
Yeah. So
That
for the
sounds
record,
great.
most people don't like MPs, and
Sapper.
you should have it be like Area 51, and the person was dyslexic, and they didn't realize that Area 51 was actually not where anything was. It was Area 15, and they just got it wrong.
I don't want to go back to Area 51. I go to Area 51 in book 4 of Galaxy's Most Wanted. It's a lot of fun. I don't want to go back.
Huh?
I said, JR just figured it out.
It was Area 15, wasn't it?
I'm not saying they experimented on Nick, but I'm just saying he
No,
didn't
they
mind the
experimented on her.
intercoding.
She's the Vegas native. I just
I'm
dropped
just-
into their quarantine zone on a
What-
bad drop once.
One
And I was
year-
escorted out by some very nice gentlemen, a very blacked out panel van, all wearing black camis, and they took me to my to my platoon, and then I got smoked for an hour and a half.
Everybody likes going up the I-15 to try to find Area 51 and see if they can get in. Next time, take a drive up 95.
So
You can't. You can't get in.
yeah, don't try that, people. But the storming Area 51 event is hilarious. I'm just picturing all those old colonels, like those like retired yuppie white dudes in their like PowerPoint presentation.
They're
Air Force
not
style.
all white.
It's the Air Force, all right? They're talking about the Karens and the Chads and the Naruto running. Like that just amused me. I'd almost paid to sit in on that.
They got one alien. His name is Mimit, and he also works that side.
Okay. So
by the way,
Don't forget about Paul.
So speaking
And
of
Paul.
BattleTech, I actually got Blaine Pardo of written some BattleTech on my.
Yeah.
He's
You've
writing.
been,
He wrote one of the stories for the Tank Mecha anthology that you're doing the cover on.
which is gonna blow
Get-
somebody's socks off. I don't know who it's
Get
gonna
out of here.
Yeah, I asked him.
Or
I
Pardo's
asked him
is
about
writing
people-
for the Mech
That is quite a
Anthology.
score.
Wait, are you guys excited about me doing
Wow.
the art or him doing it?
Yeah, no, they're excited for you, Nick. It's all about you. It's the Nick
No,
Garber
it's
show.
not.
Yes,
I
if
am-
we could
I
just
am
bring
a
the
B-level
conversation ever
comic
so
artist that's
slightly
just
back to Nick.
I'm
Yes.
just doing my best. I'm a B-level comic artist. I'm just doing my best, man.
Oh, his story was hilarious. He didn't lean into the gritty like he's sometimes known for. He just wrote pure satire of the whole genre, and I was laughing so hard I thought I was gonna die.
He
Oh, I can't wait to read this. This is going to be great.
You want to talk about strategic absurdity? I don't think you get more absurd than mechs. Really, I would imagine. Right? I mean,
When we go offline, I'll tell you. Unless you want to wait, but Nick, so how's that cover coming? No pressure, but Pardo wants to know.
It'll change worlds.
Oh, outstanding.
There you go.
All right. So
No, I got the line art down. I'll send you something tomorrow afternoon. Right now, I'm doing all the framework before I start getting into the graphic design Jedi shit.
And so we also got Ashley Pollard sent on. I'm probably butchering her name. Sorry, Ashley. She's designed some iconic battle mech type games back in the day. I
I've
won't say how
stolen a
long
lot
ago.
of her work for this cover.
Yeah.
No,
I don't want to say ages because she's good with a bow and arrow, and you can smuggle those easily through customs. I'm just saying.
yeah, actually, they don't even check. I work
Right.
customs.
So I am not upsetting a woman who is an Olympic level arrow shooter. I'm just not doing it.
Bolt on the system, and you're good to go. They'll let it right through.
And that scares me, so I don't want to make her mad.
Yeah.
So
Nick says, try it.
so with that being said, Gallagher, how can listeners and viewers find you as we wrap this up?
listeners and viewers can find me through my publisher's website, sevenstarsbooks.wordpress.com. You can read some excerpts of some books I've got out and in progress, and some short fiction there, as well as contact me through a contact page there, or I am on Twitter at Missing Byline. Probably better known on Twitter as Base Papist. So just give me a look on there.
All right, and Lewis, I got to say your name like that. It's just required now. And every time you come back, we'll go more Pepe Le Pew every time. And pretty soon, like you're gonna have to do that.
No,
voice
you
the
can't do
whole-
Pepe anymore. Pepe is part of rape culture. Remember? They
didn't get the memo.
DX Pepe.
I got to get rid of my poster now. Signed. Whatever.
No, but yeah, people can find me on my website, michaellavoice.com. And Athon will be putting out announcements very soon about the release of book 1 of Galaxy's Most Wanted. Because, of course, it doesn't release till December. So we're working on finishing touches now.
You can hype it up now, though.
I'm getting ready to start signing people up for email lists and things like that. So look for that feature on the website soon.
All right. So if you sign up for his newsletter, he does promise you that he will wear the neon orange Speedo with his Mandalorian helmet. He'll do that for you.
The Speedo will be on top of the Mandalorian helmet.
Oh, okay. I mean, when we said clothing optional, we didn't think you'd take us literally, but whatever.
You don't know what's under this shirt.
Nipples. I'm going with nipples.
Well,
maybe 2.
Part of it.
He's going to have a DSP moment. He's going to have a DSP moment where he goes, "Oh, the camera's on. Camera's been on the whole time, huh?"
Nick, he was a longtime member of the Spec 4 Mafia, so there's probably something that's stolen under that shirt.
That X-wing behind him is probably functional.
Yeah. All right, and you can find us. You can find us on our Linktree at Linktree, which is linktr.ee/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to our BitChute and our Rumble and all the things. But apparently, the YouTubers do not like it when we link to their competition, even though, we love all of our listeners and viewers, regardless of where they find us. We have a Twitter at twitter.com/SF_fantasy_show. Sierra Foxtrot _fantasy_show. We have an email at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. We do answer those emails. If you want to send a hate mail, however, it is Stabby at blastersandbladespodcast.com. She likes the hate mail. She thrives on it. She loves it. She will blast you back and might send you pictures of dead things. But, it's part of when you play Russian roulette with Stabby. You lose.
Yeah.
So we just want to ask her about her first 12 husbands.
You're also available on Spotify. I don't know if you knew that, but
yeah, we are. I was going to get there next, but that's cool.
My bad.
Spoilers, darling.
Spoilers, darling.
So we are on the Facebooks where all the shenanigans happen at facebook.com/groups/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, /groups/Blasters and Blades Podcast. We have a Facebook page. We don't have a dedicated URL yet. I will work on that as soon as I get control over the page. I don't think Zuckerberg likes us. Maybe I shared one too many robot memes. I don't know. Just saying, lizard people, look it up. Just saying. Lizard people. We have a website at anchor.fm/blasters /and blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the lights on. And that does send the feed out to all of the audio platforms out there. So Apple, Spotify, I'm out of all the others. I don't know, Cloud9, something, insert gobbledygook words. They're all there.
Yeah, we got a link tree.
We do have a link tree,
which has most of our links.
Yeah, and he just said everything that was on the link tree.
So. Yeah,
he just said the link tree.
He said
you could just say, "Hey, go to our link tree." Save yourself about 3 minutes there. But,
I like making life hard for
critiquing the host. What's wrong with
you? The man is nothing if not thorough.
This is what we call the after action review, but he just forgot to wait for the after.
I just went right to review. Echo, my bad.
He's like, Sergeant Handley, I've had enough of your shit. Listen here. I'm a captain.
God damn it, Sergeant. I've told you about the link tree.
And then we have you can support the show more directly at buymeacoffee.com /author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com /author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it is for the podcast. And I promise I will keep my co-hosts, Doc Cisca and Nick Garber, and now Madam Stabby McStabberson, duly caffeinated. They will drink the coffee until their face explodes and starts pouring out lattes from their eyeballs. It'll happen.
Since I'm new, can I ask real quick, Stabby?
Yeah.
How'd you get the name Stabby?
JR, take it away.
So we had
after the show.
No, it's cool. It's cool. So when we started,
everybody loves this story. All the audience loves this story about how I almost died on air.
He almost died to join. I mean, he, blood in, blood out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we were the sci-fi shenanigans, and our co-host, it was Chris Winder and I. We were good friends, and he had to get a day job because his wife needed health insurance and, responsibilities, adulthood, kids that wanted food and braces. You know how that goes. Boring. So he had to get a day job. He's like, I just, I can't do the podcast for free anymore, JR. You're going to need to do your own thing. And so we found StreamYards and Anchor FM because they're idiot proof. And we like to call that in the industry JR proof. And so, Grunt proof. So at that point in time, it's just Doc and I, because we brought her on to give him some breathing room initially. And I have special needs kids, so it's like sometimes you just gotta deal with life, right? And so we had 3 hosts. It worked for us. And then when we were sitting just the 2 of us, I reached out to my friend Walt Robillard. Is that how you say it? Do I need to add another rolled L? I don't know how that works. Grandpappy Grunt. He is like the great grandfather of Grunthood. Legend has it that he helped General Washington when his frock coat wasn't quite fitting right. He cinched it a little tighter for him. He was there. I'm just telling you.
I was in the room happened, but whatever.
But so when the Rangers were founded and they had a few spare body parts left, they put Ranger Nick together and they were friends. So when I said, hey, I need a co-host, do you know anybody that's Army or military in general that's that can contribute to nerddom? He's like, hey, this is this guy Nick. And so he introduced us, and we chatted back and forth on the Facebook messengers. We talked about lizard people and robots and the hollow core Earth. And we realized we kind of like this guy. And I said, so how do you feel about the flat Earth? And he goes, well, if it was really flat, my cats would have pushed the stuff off already. So I'm like, okay, he's our people. And so at that point in time, you can talk to people online and like type, and then you realize in person they had zero personality. I know a few of those people. Love them to death, but they don't have personality for radio.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I got the face for radio. That's for
I got the face for radio too. And so I was like,
voice for print.
And a voice for print. That's right. I said, let's do a FaceTime. It'll take 15 minutes. We'll just make sure there's audio chemistry. And
2 hours later.
2 hours later, Stabby comes in with a butcher knife, waving it around. And she's like, Nick, I cooked your favorite meal from scratch. It is getting cold. You will come here and eat it, or you will not eat at all. And she's waving the knife at him. And I'm like, hey, chill, Stabby. Like, you don't want witnesses to the murder. And she just looked at us and she's like, told Doc and I, she's like, I could stab you too if you keep this up.
I'll stab all of them.
And she became
Adam
Stabby.
and aroused at the same time, which is a weird feeling.
Yeah, and so at this point, like, we really need to get Nick on drawing some new logos and some merch. And some of that merch needs to be like, I listened to the show and Stabby hasn't hit me yet. So I don't know. We need Stabby merch. I'm just saying.
I was making Sicilian meatballs that night. It took me about 3 hours to make just the meatballs, and then I still had the homemade sauce and the pasta. So by the time everything was done, he was supposed to already be off. I had already texted him twice.
I've been talking to these jackalopes for 2 hours.
I was getting no response. Not
yeah, blame him, man.
So he got,
he kicked open that door.
NCO's fault.
She kicked open that door with a confidence of a toddler and a Batman t-shirt.
That's right, she did.
Knife in hand, like Michael Myers.
Well, that is my guy, so.
So much for bros first. It was JR's fault, honey.
Yeah. And so I'm just saying, he married the axe murderer. I'm just saying.
I would never use an axe. They're too heavy.
They don't have the elegance of a dagger.
I got you that 25 pounds.
They have some places around here where you can actually, in Vegas too, where you can throw the axe and you can get good at like the hand axe.
Oh, she grabbed my tomahawk and I'm like, no, please don't kill me with my own tomahawk.
Ooh.
The ultimate
so you're telling me I gotta hide my K-bar around her? Is that what you're telling me?
No, she'll kill you with your own K-bar. I just made a special. No.
Improvised weaponry 100.
There's a Sykes Fairborn in my dresser.
Oh,
so when are you gonna put? We should we're like, oh, we're done with the show, and we just keep going. This is the credits, people. This is the end credits. So
let people watch though the craziness.
This is what you watch for.
This is the stuff you got to wall off for the Patreon customers.
Yeah, you got to pay for
the after show.
Would this work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
Get this.
Look at that skull fracture and pommel on that bad boy.
So when is Stabby going to make it in a comic?
People are like giving her ideas for stuff to hit Nick with.
We're going to get emails now from all the angry
wives
wives.
for her eventual true crime documentary.
Cutlass.
Nice. I have the K-bar my drill sergeant at Fort Benning School for Wayward Boys gave me for making it.
Oh yeah.
I showed up as the fat kid, and they were taking bets on how long it would take me to quit, and I didn't because I'm too stupid to quit.
There's
that's
a tradition in the
motivation.
Ranger regiment. Every new Ranger gets a Sykes Theraborn stiletto dagger.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to have one of those.
We were known for using that on D-Day when we climbed Point Du Hoc. So
It's in the closet.
it is.
Only the real ones are made in Sheffield.
That's right. Only the real ones are made in Sheffield, and the one I have was made in Sheffield.
So you got a real one. None of that knockoff imitation made.
I do have some knockoff ones, but that's just for show.
We will accept an Atlanta Cutlery Corp or Museum Replicas version because
No, I like Atlanta Cutlery Corp. I have one of theirs. Cost me a nice dime. They do good work, and it's balance wise, 100%.
You know, now I want to
to sharp and pointy things.
And it's going to be LaVoice's fault, but we should do a topic where we talk about knives in sci-fi settings because, like, there's room for that. I think the elegance of stabby.
We'll put the scissors down because I don't want to die tonight.
No, I was going to show him. We're using my desk tonight instead of his, and just on my desk for
Please don't kill me with scissors.
Because I lose my stuff too much, so every time I go to the store, I buy another.
I'm getting a little nervous.
I buy another sharp thing.
She does it with the safety scissors.
Yeah.
Worse.
I believe that.
I actually
all right, so
You just lose things.
You stabbed me with a fork.
don't ever say that.
No, you did. You stabbed me with a fork.
Were you trying to take her
Don't-
food?
Nick, she said, "Don't say it." Don't say it, Nick.
All right, so thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For Nick Garber and the absentee Doc Cisca, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, and we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And rumor has it, this is purely hypothetical, but I might need to find a new co-host. I don't know what's going to happen to Nick tonight, but I mean, well, oops. That's how we're going to end it.
He's either going to die or get lucky.